5, 5. All right, the only thing new about 5, 5 is what happens to that inequality symbol when we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Okay, I know I've mentioned it briefly in bell ringers, but let's see it in action. So, first question here. Solve the inequality. D over 7 is greater than 15. Then graph the solution. All right, so here's the equation. D over 7 is greater than 15. Okay, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to multiply that by 7 over 1, right? Because that's the opposite of dividing by 7. And right now, we're going to leave the symbol the same way, and then we're going to multiply 15 times 7 as well. So we're going to get D. We didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so that symbol is going to be the same, and we're going to get 15 times 7, all right? 5 times 7 is 35. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. So D is greater than 105. Okay, then we have to graph this solution. And here is the 105 mark, right? Well, I'm not going to touch it because I have to do an open or closed circle. Okay, it's D is greater than 105. It's not greater than or equal to. So it's an open circle. It's a circle missing 105, right? It goes right around 105, but not actually 105. And it is the numbers that are greater than 105. So it goes out this way. Convince Me says, Francis, solve the inequality. 5G is greater than or equal to 35. She says that 7 is a solution to the inequality. Is Francis correct? Well, this 5G is 5 times G, and to undo multiplication, we do divide. So 35 divided by 5 is 7. That's what we just found out up there. Okay, so 7 is a solution because it's or G is greater than or equal to 7. Okay, that or equal to means that 7 can be an option. Now in our problem up here, 105 isn't a solution to the problem. It cannot be 105, but it can be any number that's bigger than 105. So that's how we interpret those inequalities. Eraser. All right, let's move on. So we have now example 2, and try it. Solve the inequality. Negative 3.4m is less than or equal to 17, and then graph the solution. Complete the first step. Well, the first step of the solution, we're going to write, I see 2 fractions there, and we're dividing, okay? So we have negative 3.4m, and we're going to divide that by negative 3.4. Okay, we're dividing by a negative, so that's going to make our symbol flip around. And then we have 17, and we're dividing that by negative 3.4. Okay, so the thing that we need to remember, I can't type it in here. I'm going to write it in. Okay, the thing that we need to remember about topic 5.5 is when dividing or multiplying by a negative, flip the inequality symbol. Okay, I know it took me a really long time to write that out, but I'm hoping that it will just stick in your heads a little more than if I were to just type it out, okay? So the one thing you need to remember, if nothing else, because there's nothing really else extra, this is all the same as solving equations, is when you're dividing or multiplying by a negative, flip the inequality symbol. Okay, so write that down somewhere, ingrain it into your head so that you don't forget that. And then we can move on to another question. Okay, if we were to graph that thing, right, there's the equation that we did. We flipped the symbol just like they did, right there. Look here. Okay, they flipped the symbol. Here was the original, and then they flipped it. Let's make it. Okay, anyways, now we need to graph it. So m is greater than or equal to -5. All right, they already have a filled in circle because it includes 5. 5 can be a solution, and it is the numbers greater than or equal to -5, and that is this way, just as they have it there. All right, here's 2 more questions. I'll erase my little man over here. So we have 149.76 is greater than -19.2x. Okay, to solve this one, we're going to take 149.76 and we're going to divide it by -19.2. And we're going to get -7.8. Okay, if we have to graph that, right, I divided by a negative. So I have x over here, right? X is on this side. I didn't move the x, I just moved the number. So it goes on this side. And it used to be less than, but I divided by a negative, so it flips around. Okay, so now it reads x is greater than -7.8. So -7.8 is about here. It does not include 7.8, and all the numbers greater than it are that way. Okay, in B, we have -3.25y is less than -61.75. So we're going to take -61.75. We're going to divide it by -3.25, and we're going to get 19. Okay, so here's my y over here. It used to be less than, but I divided by a negative, so it's going to be greater than 19. Okay, so y is greater than 19. Here's 19 somewhere here. It does not include 19 because there's no line underneath the symbol. And it is greater than 19. That's where all those numbers are that way. Okay? So when multiplying or dividing by a negative, you have to make sure that you flip the symbol. So just like when we're deciding whether our answer will be positive or negative, do that first here for these ones too. Make flipping that symbol the first thing that you think about. So we have this question here. It says solve the inequality. R divided by -2.25 is greater than or equal to 7. All right, I'm dividing by a negative, so I'm going to multiply by a negative. So I know my symbol's going to go from this. It's not going to be that anymore. It's going to be this. And here's my R. Okay, and the opposite of dividing by 0.25 is to multiply. So we take 7 times -0.25, and we get -15.75. And then it says then graph. So here's a line. Here's 15.75 negative. And its R is less than or equal to. So there's that line underneath, which means it's a closed circle, and it's that way. There's where all the numbers that are less than or equal to -15.75. All right, same as solving equations. Do the opposite of what the equation is telling you to do. This one told us to divide by 2.25, so I multiplied. And then make sure that you catch that inequality symbol and you flip it. Make that the first thing that you do.